We'll call some recs.
Okay. Welcome to the Tuesday. Are we on? There we go. All right. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 15th, 2013 meeting of the Hot Springs Board of Directors. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Chaplain Ed Losey, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand with me?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we do come to you, Lord, and as I bring this board and this meeting to you, Father, I just pray that every decision that is made here tonight will be made prayerfully and thankfully in your name. Father, we pray for our city tonight. We pray that all the decisions that are made will benefit each man and woman and each person that's represented here tonight. Father, as the men and women come to speak and bring their everything that they have to the board tonight, Father, we do pray that that the decisions made will benefit and glorify you, Father. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hereby call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
McCabe.
Here.
Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Carney.
Here. And I'd like to back up just a little bit. I'm not sure if all of you know that Chaplain Losey is the chaplain at our detention center, and he does a great job there. I'm not sure how many years you've been there, but we appreciate the work that you do in our city and our county at the jail, and thank you so much for that. Amen. Yeah, it does a great job. Okay, the first item of business is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda, including any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, this would not be a change, but I just wanted to make the board and the public aware that there is a replacement form of Ordinance 1371, which is agenda item number 20. It's at your station in the colored paper. It's the same rates. Under the first draft, the rates were provided as a schedule. That schedule has been dropped into the text of the ordinance itself. Otherwise, no change.
That's just a sub. Okay. All right. Hearing no other changes, would you please call the roll? Oh, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So move.
Is there a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion is adopted. The second item of business is consider the approval of the minutes for the board meeting, which was held on October 1st. Do I have any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Madam Mayor, I so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Motion is adopted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No, forgot that part. Okay. In an effort to afford everyone an equal and orderly opportunity to address the items on tonight's agenda, I want to remind our citizens and our guests that we adhere to a 3-minute limit on your comments. For your convenience, we'll display a clock timer on the monitors, and Mr. Spicer will have a beeper. Out of respect to all of us, we ask that you honor this request, and while members of the board may have questions or comments, we ask that they wait until all of the discussion has been from the audience and the department heads. We also ask that all cell phones and be silent during our meeting, and please refrain from any disruptions of the meeting. Should you need to leave prior to the conclusion of the meeting, please do so quietly. I know that some of you will leave after your part of the meeting is finished, and we ask that you please do so without talking to your neighbors. And thank you so much, all of you, for being here. We have a great crowd tonight. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate your participation in our city and in the business of our city. At this time, we have several guests to recognize. We have first the Extra Mile Day. Okay. And who is here is there someone here for the Extra Mile proclamation? I don't have a name by the
No, Mayor.
No.
I believe they're not here.
They're not here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just read it then. Okay.
So,
Whereas the City of Hot Springs is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas the City of Hot Springs is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas the City of Hot Springs is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas the City of Hot Springs acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 400 Extra Mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2013. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim November 1, 2013 to be Extra Mile Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day and not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, and world a better place. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 15th day of October in the year of our Lord 2013, Ruth Carney, Mayor. So we want to encourage all of you to find a project, something to do on November 1st and go the extra mile. And sometimes that just happens and you find yourself going that extra mile. And I appreciate all of those who are always looking out for a way to serve and a way to be of service to our community. And thank all of you. Okay. And we have Red Ribbon Week coming up. That's in all the schools all over the city. Legine, I'll have you, and would you come up to the platform, and anybody else that came with you that would like to okay. You want to tell us who you are and what this is about, and then I will read it and present it to you.
My name is LaJean Burnett with Garland County Cares, Coalition for Action, Recovery, Education, and Support. And what our organization does is our fiscal agent is Quapaw House Incorporated, and we go out and do prevention services, education for the schools. However, we do our main focus is underage drinking, alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And one of our main emphasis is prescription drugs. And with Red Ribbon Week, a DEA agent was killed in Mexico in 1985, and here it is 30 years later. We have the red ribbons that are placed and depicted to launch a campaign against drugs, and so that we can be a drug-free America.
Thank you so much. And she's a busy lady. She'd really, wait just a minute, stand there. I'm going to read this all to you. Whereas, therefore, whereas the City of Hot Springs values the health and safety of all of our citizens, and whereas substance abuse is particularly damaging to one of our most valuable resources, our children, and a contributing factor in the 3 leading causes of death for teenagers: accidents, homicides, and suicides. And whereas it is the goal of Red Ribbon Week and Mayor Ruth Carney to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in all aspects of this campaign and establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiative to prevent illegal drug use. And whereas the Red Ribbon Week campaign theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for living healthy, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or the illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas there are many activities planned during the Red Ribbon Week campaign in Hot Springs, Arkansas, now therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, On behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the week of October 23rd through 31st as Red Ribbon Week in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and encourage all citizens, businesses, media, and religious and educational institutions to show support by wearing and displaying red ribbons and to participate in drug-free activities throughout the week to promote drug-free America. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed to this 15th day of October in the year of our Lord 2013. Ruth Carney, Mayor.
Thank you. And I will say on October the 24th, the Sentinel Record will publish an insert. It's a 20-page insert where we will have students in the community will voice how they feel about living. And the theme this year is A Healthy Me is Drug-Free.
And you do have some guests. You want to just introduce them? Okay. Yeah. Okay. We appreciate y'all being here and what you do.
Better tell them about Pass It On.
I will tell them about Pass It On. Okay. This is two of our board members for Quapaw House, Pat Parker, and my brain just went blank. You know, I know your name. Help me. I know your name. Marianne Lazarick, and I knew that, and I just went blank in the midst of all of this public. Okay, Pass It On is a production that we are doing. It is a fundraiser for a benefits production for veterans with substance dependence. And although we focus on underage drinking, one of the things that we also look at is the fact that having things in place to prevent usage of drugs, like a stable family environment, is important. So if you have a family member that's has a substance dependence, it affects the teenagers, and they're more likely to use substances. So we do ask that you support this production because it is for a great cause of benefiting veterans with substance dependence. Yes, you can have a couple of them. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
And our next proclamation will be for Ms. Garcia is going to introduce our group. And
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, next week is National Business Women's Week, and to receive a proclamation are some downtown business owners, including our former city director, Cynthia Kahili. But since 1928, the third full week of October has been recognized as National Business Women's Week. It's a time that special recognition is given to the contributions of working women. And whether you work inside or outside the home, we value all the contributions that our working women provide to us. Tonight we recognize women business owners. The fastest growing segment of small businesses is the women-owned businesses, and Hot Springs is no exception. And our guest will now provide an update on some downtown businesses that are women business owners.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the mayor and all the board of directors for having us tonight. We want to thank you for recognizing and celebrating the role played by the business women throughout Hot Springs. Women are leading the way in downtown and throughout our whole city. They're making great contributions each and every day to grow our economy as business owners and entrepreneurs. Women are playing a very important role in keeping our downtown alive for all of the visitors and the residents. There are many cities throughout the United States that would love to have this vital economy and downtown we call Hot Springs. Thank you for the recognition tonight and being our advocate. I can assure you that we're going to keep expanding our efforts to help Hot Springs grow into an even better city. Here tonight with me are a couple of Hot Springs downtown leaders, and I would like to introduce them.
Hello. I'm Debbie Cooey, and I'm the owner of Rings and Things. We are starting our 26th year at 117 Central Avenue. And we sell accessories and jewelry, and we've really enjoyed our time and our neighbors in the 100 block. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dolores Justice, and I have Justice Fine Art Gallery and Justice Design and Marketing, both of which are downtown in the same location now. And also, I'm representing several of the other gallery owners, Linda Palmer, Allison Parsons, Carolyn Taylor, who is out of the gallery business now, but is still a vital part of the downtown. Women who have really, helped shape the arts community in our city. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And now, if you'll just stay right there a minute, I'll present a proclamation to you. Whereas working women constitute 71 million of the nation's workforce and strive to serve their communities and their states and their nation in professional, civic, and cultural capacities. And whereas women-owned businesses account for 31% of all U.S. business, generating $1.3 trillion in sales. And whereas the major goals of business and professional women are to promote equality for all women, to help create better conditions for working women through the study of social, economical, educational, and political problems. All of us are proud of their leadership in these many fields of endeavor. And whereas since 1928, Business and Professional Women Arkansas has been spotlighting the achievements and contributions of working women during National Business Women's Week, and whereas the Spa Area Business and Professional Women's Organization is active in Hot Springs and Garland County, and salute the contributions of all working women in the Hot Springs area and the contribution they make to our community. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim October 20th through October 27th as National Business Women's Week in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and encourage all citizens, civic and fraternal groups, all educational associations, all news media, and other community organizations to join this salute to working women, encourage and promote the celebration of the achievements of all business and professional women as they contribute daily to our economic, civic, and cultural purpose. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 15th day of October in the year of our Lord, 2013. Ruth Carney, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Carney.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a new one. Okay. Now we will hear our city manager's report. Are you ready?
Thank you, Mayor.
Did you do something?
We have a lot of things going on in the community, and I wanted to highlight 3 or 4 for the public's edification. The first thing, we had our household hazardous waste collection last weekend, where people could bring paints and thinners and things that we do not want in our landfills. And my deputy city manager, Bill Burrow, who's all over sanitation, informs me that we had over 250 vehicles go through the collection area, and thus we have that many potential hazardous materials that are not going to be transported to our landfill, which is the goal. Also, one of our initiatives with our solid waste management district, which is under the auspices of the West Central Planning and Development District here in Hot Springs, we had over 500 tires were turned in for recycling, which is another issue that's big. Tires, for some reason, in landfills tend to kind of work their way up to the surface. So there's a real need to make sure that those do not go into our landfill if possible. On another note, you may have noticed some of our work crews downtown in what we call CBID number 3, which is Central Avenue from Prospect to Ouachita. And city crews were out painting park benches, painting grates, doing some things to enhance the appearance of our downtown, which is a goal of this board of directors and mayor. Also, we are having the Documentary Film Festival here in Hot Springs, a national event that's held here every year about this time of year. This year there's a particular emphasis on sports and sports figures. And some of the documentaries that are going to be shown this week include documentaries on Mitch Mustain, former Arkansas quarterback who transferred, Bear Bryant, coach of that other school in Alabama. Sorry, I had to get that in. Jim Lindsay, former Arkansas Razorback, who went on to become a national developer of golf course communities, and Jose Canseco, who wrote a kind of a controversial book about the use of performance-enhancing drugs in the Major League Baseball, will actually be here in town as part of the documentary film presentation on his story. So that's a big issue. Coming up later on in the week, we're going to have the arrival of about 40 visitors from Hanamaki, Japan, which is the city that we are sister cities with in Japan. This year marks the 20th anniversary of that relationship. And so to that end, this year is going to be particularly festive and celebratory. There will be a unveiling of a statue across the street from here, over by the Austin Hotel on convention property, that will commemorate an important figure in Hanamaki's past. So a lot of things going on, and on a kind of a dreary night, it's cheery to think about all the things that we have going on in this community.
Thank you. Now, do we have any announcements concerning upcoming events from our, yes, ma'am?
To tag along about the Documentary Film Festival, I believe it's tomorrow, is the film called Bump, which is about the man that was nominated and elected Arkansas Living Treasure this past year by the Arkansas Arts Council, and that is Dallas Bump, who lives at Bear, Arkansas, who makes the rocking chairs and has been for 80-something years. And his nephew Leon is now making the chairs, but the documentary is great. I'll have extra the Arts Council because we ran out of so many of the videos. They're shipping us some more. They've made some more, so if you're very interested in seeing it and don't get a chance to see it at the film festival, contact me because I have an extra copy or two. But I believe it's going to be tomorrow at 2 o'clock. But it's just a really great program about the work that they are doing, and it's these are the most beautiful handmade rocking chairs of all sizes. And the problem was, after the film came out and after he was made a living treasure, they're about 6 months to a year behind because they were swamped with so many orders. That's a good thing, though. They had been going a little slowly. The PACA meeting is Monday, October 1st. That's Park Avenue Community Association, and our State Senator Bill Samples is going to be our guest speaker. And also we will have Taste of Park Avenue, where local restaurant items and favorite recipes for members, and that's a kickoff of our annual Park Avenue Community Association Toy and Food Drive. Thank you.
You have something?
My news is always old news, but it's good news. Well, I do have
Use your
some new
mic.
news.
Elaine.
Yes.
Microphone.
You can't hear me?
We can't record you.
That's a first.
Keep going.
This week, on Thursday at 12:45, Patrilla Polyfet will be featured at the Documentary Film Festival, and it's really a good thing to see. I've got a tape of her doing this. She sings country music, soul country music, and she's been all over traveling, and everywhere you go somebody knows her and they know she's from Hot Springs, Arkansas, and that part I like that she's done. And I just want to give a lot of kudos to the Film Record for putting Mrs. Logan, her 95th birthday, on the front page of the newspaper. And underneath was another person in education, the little Perkins young man from Hot Springs. And we've just had some good stuff going on this past week, and we're going to have some good stuff going on this week. And I urge everyone that's able to go to get out and go, rain or shine.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a couple of announcements. First, to increase public safety and increase patron convenience, the Hot Springs Intracity Transit is making a change to bus route 3. At the turning point at the end of the route, the bus will proceed south on Malvern Avenue, turn right on Sawtooth Oak Street, turn left on Moat Street, then left onto Hollywood Avenue, and back left onto Malvern Avenue as it returns to downtown. And what this will do will add 3 new bus stops. These will be located at Sawtooth Oak near Oak Park Pharmacy. The second was directly across from the Veterans Affairs Clinic on Sawtooth Oak, and at the National Park Medical Center ER entrance driveway. This change is to benefit patrons and employees of a number of agencies, including the Veterans Affairs Clinic, Assisted Living Community, the pharmacy, medical clinics, and other businesses. The stop at National Park Medical Center ER entrance will have pedestrian safety for those entering and leaving the hospital's main entrance, and from the ER entrance, the public can still access the main hospital from the elevator located in ER. And this bus route change will be implemented on Monday, November 4th, which is before our next regular board meeting. And I wanted the public to be aware of that, and especially our veterans that visit the Veterans Clinic there. And secondly, on November 7th, hosting a community meeting in District 5 at the Forest Lakes Clubhouse with Jim Fram, and he will be reviewing their strategic plan and talk about economic development in Hot Springs. And you'll have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the bus route information. Thank you for that's a good move. Okay, anybody else with upcoming events? Okay, the next item of business is consideration of the consent agenda. Items in this section are of a routine nature and will be considered as one item of business without discussion. I will now entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
May I so move?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
Okay, it is adopted. Okay, the next item of business is to consider resolution number R13223. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13223, a resolution approving Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, fiscal year 2014 through 2018 consolidated plan to United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion and a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and Ms. Selman, would you please discuss?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director. And I'm here tonight to talk about what we would do if we had more money and to speculate that, in fact, at some point next year, we will have more money. So what is this money? Well, this money comes from the federal government. It's the Community Development Block Grant. It's an annual grant on a formula basis to entitled communities to carry out a wide range of community development activities directed toward neighborhood revitalization, economic development, and improved community facilities and services. Now, the federal government has an extremely complicated formula by which they figure out what cities will get this money. And one of the great things about our country is that those rules change from time to time, and more cities seem to qualify. And the amount of money that we start with never gets any bigger. So we have the same size pie and more people wanting a slice, so it becomes more and more critical that the way we use this money reflects our community's priorities. This year we had a very comprehensive community outreach that was led by our Community Development Block Grant consultant, Michelle Sestilli. She put together a very comprehensive approach, hit lots of communities that we didn't traditionally have participating. We had a survey that went out to hundreds of people, and they returned them. We had dozens of consultations with other service providers and folks who know what's going on in our community. And that was the basis of putting together the plan that we have before us tonight. And this plan is, as much as anything, a needs assessment. It is not a budget. It doesn't fund or not fund specific projects. It looks at what the conditions are in the city of Hot Springs, certain demographic information from the U.S. Census and other agencies that collect that kind of information, and our consultations with other community members, both agencies and individuals. And all of that information is compiled in this one plan. For the next 5 years, this will be a document that when you are asked to spend this Community Development Block Grant money, you can look at this and say, do these projects really address the needs that were identified when we went out and asked people what's important? It does make a general recommendation as to the types of activities that will be funded over the next 5 years, but specific projects are not recommended for funding. Specific applicants are not being recommended for funding. That will happen in the very near future. You will have before you an annual action plan, another creation of the federal government that is a complicated document that says exactly what you're going to do with every penny that comes to you through the Community Development Block Grant. What is the amount of the grant? Well, we're estimating that it's going to be in the $250,000 range. This is an educated guess, but it is a guess. This year we were very surprised to get a little bit more than what we estimated. Other years we've been a little surprised to get not quite what we did estimate. So I guess it all evens out. What we're doing in this grant and what Congress did in approving community development block grants a long time ago is to provide a way for the federal government to contribute to grassroots projects that address community needs in revitalizing a community. It's generally understood that a healthy community is one where people want to be. They want to live there, they want to work there, and they want to spend time there. Healthy communities have a dynamic system of residential and commercial development. They have ways for people to get around, working infrastructure, open space, recreational facilities, and a sense of safety. And these are the kinds of things that the City of Hot Springs Board of Directors in the past has spent this money to accomplish. Neighborhoods operate holistically. They have all kinds of things going on in them. We each live in a neighborhood. We like some of the things about them, and some of the things about our neighborhoods probably drive us a little crazy. One of the things to think about in looking at this consolidated plan is that in the past, we have spent a lot of our community development block grant money on housing rehabilitation, and with the goal of revitalizing our neighborhoods. At this time, it becomes increasingly apparent that revitalizing our neighborhoods means that people need to have jobs that allow them to afford the houses that exist in our neighborhoods. Jobs that will allow them to purchase homes where maybe they've been renting, to improve homes where they are living, and that jobs connection is something that we have not emphasized in the past. And you will see that in our survey, in our consultations, and in the consolidated plan, more of an emphasis on the economic development equals community development equals neighborhood revitalization connection than we have had in the past. Just to kind of wrap up, the recommendation, the very general recommendation in the plan is that approximately 20%, no more than 20%, be allocated to planning, administration, and governmental compliance. And this includes something called the Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice, a required document that must be done every 5 years, and we are due to do that again in this upcoming fiscal 2014. That 55% or more be targeted toward creating suitable living environments, and that no more than 25% be used to encourage business and job growth through municipal infrastructure improvements to meet code requirements. Two things I want to mention before I get to the recommendation. One is Michelle, our community development expert, recently went to training in Tulsa, HUD training. And we were talking this afternoon about the immensity, the enormity of the needs that we face in Hot Springs with regard to community development. And she reminded me of something I knew but had maybe forgotten, and that is that the needs are huge, and there is never enough money to cover all of those needs. So I want to acknowledge that we who have worked on this plan and are making a recommendation to you, and that includes your Community Development Advisory Committee, who have put hours and hours of work into this, holding hearings and so forth. We understand the difficulty that you face in determining how you are going to allocate these funds, and to know that even at your very best, so many important things cannot be done with this particular pot of money that is probably no more than $250,000, $260,000. So want to thank you for your attention, your caring about our low and moderate income neighborhoods. That is the area of focus of the Federal Community Development Block Grant, and want to pass along to you the recommendation from your Community Development Advisory Committee that you adopt a resolution approving the Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan for fiscal years 2014 through 2018. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do want to thank Michelle. She did a great job with putting all that together. Thank you so much. Okay, we have Janice Jones signed up to speak.
I'm Janice Jones. I live at 113 Kearney, which is in Hot Springs. I have watched the process that we have taken to get to this point. And it seems to me that there was a lot of work done, not just by the city staff, Michelle, but also a lot of input was gathered from various sources, communities. There was a week-long series of seminars that were advertised to be attended on different aspects, economic, community development, and other things. I don't know the complexities of the entire federal HUD program. But if this matches their basic guidelines, it would seem to me that our community has come together and made their wishes known how they would like to see this progress.
Thank you. Okay, Mark Toth.
My name is Mark Toth. I'm president of the Whittington Valley Neighborhood Association. Lance, if you could start the slides. I have a few slides here. Yes. That's not the first one. That's not the first one. Is that number one?
Sorry.
Time's up.
Go ahead.
Next slide. This assessment is supposed to address 3 neighborhood or community needs: affordable housing, economic development, and revitalizing neighborhoods. And you're supposed to come up with a plan as to how you achieve all of these goals. And there's lots of ways to accomplish that. You can use city funds, you can use state funds, you can use federal funds, you can use private resources, you can use charitable resources. And with this program, and I've highlighted it in a different color, you get a little pot of money, the $25,000. So where do you spend that money? Do you spend it all on neighborhood revitalization? Do you spread it out among those 3 goals? This is how it's being proposed to you. Affordable housing, 0. The plan specifically says we're going to use all these other resources to try and expand affordable housing. 25% for economic development and 55% for neighborhood revitalization. I'm going to ask you to change that. Next slide, please. Put it all into neighborhood revitalization. And I'm going to tell you why. Next slide, please. Why is this important? Next slide. The survey says, and this is a direct quote, the Citizen Survey, public hearings, and consultations ranked 8 of the top 10 community priorities as neighborhood revitalization priorities. 8 out of 10. 80% of the priorities, top 10 priorities, were neighborhood revitalization. I think the community was speaking very clearly. There are other funding sources for economic development. David can rattle them all off. I'm not familiar with all the grants. There's tax credits. You can apply for small business administration loans. When it comes to neighborhoods, if you're in a neighborhood and you want to get sidewalks fixed, you want money to help get parks, you want to help bring your neighborhood back, and you're in the neighborhood, you're just a member of your neighborhood, there is no money. It's very difficult to find this money. And I want to make this final point. Currently, there are no economic development projects seeking funding. Think about that. You're going to set 25% of this money aside, and there's no projects in the queue for that money. There are numerous projects in the queue, vetted, waiting to go for neighborhood revitalization, but there's not enough money. Please, please, put the priority where it's needed. When it comes to the Pleasant Street, when you're talking about Richard Street, when you're talking about Greenwood, when you're talking about Hobson, they need every dollar they can get. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm confused because there was 55% for suitable living environment.
That's neighborhood revitalization.
That's 55%?
Yes, that's what's currently recommended. 25 for economic development.
Oh, so 55's...
20% for administration, as you can see, 20 for administration, 25% for economic development, 55 for neighborhood revitalization. That's what the plan currently asks and what you're being asked to ratify. And I'm asking, take that 25% out because there's other funding sources. There's a lot going on. You've got the chamber working on things. Economic development can be found and progressed elsewhere. And, these neighborhoods have been ignored. They've been left to wither for decades. This is probably in many ways maybe their final chance to come back and become vital.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
John, yes.
Excuse me. This recommendation comes to us from the Community Development Committee, correct?
Which recommendation? His?
No, not his.
Ours,
From
yes.
from Kathy Selman. Is there somebody here to speak for that committee? I mean, I'm assuming that a lot of these issues were vetted at their committee meetings, and I was wondering if there's anybody who can address that.
Here he comes. Would you be our fearless chairman?
Byron Rhodes, 302 Whispering Hills. I'm the chairman of the committee. You have questions? I'm here to answer them.
Was this topic discussed at your committee meeting?
Yes, sir.
And after the discussion, you came up with the recommendation, or
yes, sir. It's based on what the city recommended also, and the coordinator and Mr. Toth and everyone else had an opportunity to present that, and we went along with what the consultant and the administrator and the city had to do. So we recommended what that is.
Okay, so it was discussed.
Oh, well, absolutely, in great detail, and it's on tape, and I'm sure you all have an opportunity to. The reason why we were taping it, so you all can list to all the people who came and spoke.
Okay, great, thank
you.
So
it was tremendous amount of, and done by the staff here, not us. We're just like you are. We're just sitting there listening to what people have to say, and we agreed to send that up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Selman stated that it was no more than 25% for job growth, correct? No more than 25%? So that means
I was
it can
reading
be...
that. It looked like 25% or less
same
for
thing.
economic development and 55% or more for revitalization. So actually what Mr. Toth was saying is exactly what it was saying. 25% or less could be zero, and 55% or more could be 80% if that's where the need arises, if we get the money from the federal government in the first place.
Right. So if the applications, if none of them related to economic development specifically, then we don't need to go out and find somebody to apply.
Absolutely. And the administration is 25%, 20, whatever it is, or less too. So if that is less than that, then that money also goes toward revitalization. As you notice, and Mr. Toth, I believe, appreciates most of the money at 55%, over half, is for revitalization. Right. Some of the people wanted housing redevelopment, which is where we were talking about the money had gone in the past, and it hadn't seemed to work out. And when we did our studies, it looked like revitalization, like Mr. Toth was talking about, is the main consideration. He just wants a little bit more. And if that is the way it's set up, with 25% or less or 55% or more, it can be exactly what he wants. It could be 80% and it could be 0%, depending on whether there's anything from economic development that comes forward for us. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I got one for Mr. Toth. You know how I get confused, but this is one time that I really agree with you.
Thank you.
Normally, I don't.
I think Mr. Rhodes, and if you read the plan, and the recommendation is that 25% is banked.
Okay.
That is, it's set aside in the expectation that over the next year, maybe some projects will come up. And I'm saying you've got projects in front of you, ready to go, that need to be done. These communities need every dollar you can give them. Why are you banking this? Set it at 80, set that as the goal. That way when the recommendations come to you from CDAC, the projects are all laid out there. We don't have to come up here and say, look, they've set aside 25 for economic development. Please don't do that. Please put it over here. And then you get into these ongoing brawls.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
it. And we have Mark Lewis. John Mark, I'm sorry.
Oh, his name is Mark.
John.
John Mark.
John Mark.
John
Is
Mark.
it John Mark?
Yes.
John Mark, Lewis,
That's-
and Clark.
That's what he wrote down.
John Lewis, 442 Whittington Avenue. Madam Mayor, members of the Board of Directors, you've heard me speak before on behalf of Whittington. Tonight, I'm here to speak for our city's urban neighborhoods, not just my own. The heart of our city is composed of downtown and the historic neighborhoods that surround it, such as Park Avenue, Pleasant Street, Quapaw Prospect, the Whittington Valleys, and they radiate out from there. Yep. These areas, I can't talk tonight. These areas are our cultural soul. They're our heritage. They offer a grand panorama of our rich history, broad diversity, and the often heroic struggles that have occurred to bring us the city we love today. I cannot bear to imagine a Hot Springs without them. But perhaps we must, for they are certainly endangered. Suburban flight, aging populations, absent heirs, decades of neglect have taken their toll, exacerbated by ancient and decaying infrastructure. Some areas are at best tenuously stable. Most are fragile and at a tipping point, and some are nearing the point of no return. Are we to become a city without a heart or without a soul? All isn't lost yet. We still have a chance. There are people within these communities who care and who are willing to do their part to save our city's soul. Many of them are here tonight. Most of us are in or have recently completed triage, basically assessing what ails our neighborhoods and determining where and how we start the process of healing. It's become abundantly clear that infrastructure and public amenities are our highest priority. Without these improvements, we cannot hope to attract new investments in our neighborhoods. Currently, the only way to fund many of these projects is through CDBG. These do fit under neighborhood revitalization. For this reason, we respectfully ask that all CDBG monies be directed toward neighborhood revitalization within the qualifying districts. While economic development is certainly important to rebuilding our urban core, we believe that allocating and banking 25% of CDBG monies to economic development at this point in time is putting the cart before the horse. You would not build a shopping center before you had roads, sidewalks, and utilities to serve it. I thank you for your past and present support. Thank you.
Thank you. Verna Linder.
Verna Linder, 110 Montclair Lane. First, I strongly agree that CDBG funds should not be allocated for economic development. All available funds should be directed to neighborhood revitalization. However, I have a major concern about the process by which neighborhoods obtain CDBG funds, specifically the burdensome application each neighborhood has to complete. I would like to call your attention to page 191 of your board packet, CDBG Plan, page 112. This section says that each neighborhood must complete an application to be considered for funding. What you do not know is how technical, confusing, and complex these applications are. I have copies of the applications. The longest is 30 pages. I will be glad to share these applications with anyone on the board who has not seen them. I could not complete one of these applications. To require neighborhood associations, ordinary people who just want some help improving their communities, is wrong. We are talking about people who have to work every day and have family commitments. Filling out complex government paperwork is not part of their expertise. I know some of the people who worked on these applications. They were left angry, frustrated, and exhausted. In some instances, incomplete applications were submitted. In previous years, neighborhood associations had to submit a short letter outlining the projects they wanted funded under the CDBG program. I have a copy of one such letter, one submitted last year. It's a little over a page long. Our citizens should spend their time working to bring people together, identify needs, and work with city employees to develop solutions. not devote 40 or 50 hours completing a highly technical application. I dare say each member of the Hot Springs Board of Directors would have difficulty completing these applications. City employees should be the ones that are preparing these applications for submission to the federal government. After all, city employees are the ones with the expertise in this area. Once projects are selected by you, the Board of Directors, city staff should then complete the application, not neighborhood residents. Please direct that the application process be simplified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do any of you want to see these?
I think we have them in our packet.
All right, then you know what I'm talking about.
We do. I was just wondering, Michelle, would you like an opportunity to speak to this since you put so much time and effort into it, and maybe we should hear something from you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Thank you, Board of Directors. Do you have any questions about the process? I think we're confusing two different things. What you're looking at tonight is the 5-year strategy, which gives us a great deal of flexibility to set our funding over the next 5 years. So this is the application for the federal grant, as well as some general guidelines. If you notice it, as everyone has pointed out, it's plus or minus 25% for economic development. We can go a year and spend 0. Or another year, we might have opportunity to spend up to 25% of our funding, which will change every year. Same thing goes for everything else. The application process is what you'll be looking at next, which is the recommendation for specific funding in fiscal year 2014, which you should be looking at November 5th, government willing. It would be nice if they came back so we could get some support and some data for you. But we're looking at two different things. We're looking at a strategic plan that acknowledges the needs in our town, which are greater than our resources, and gives us flexibility to spend with give and take over the next 5 years where we need to. I don't think we want to be so specific that we lock ourselves into something that we can't change in the future. Of course, we can always amend a plan, but that's neither easy nor fast. So there's a little bit of flexibility built into the strategic plan. What you'll be looking at next, hopefully on November 5th, we'll be considering the actual projects that are being recommended for funding in fiscal year 2014.
Okay. Do you have questions? Yes, sir.
I don't have questions, but I would like to say to Michelle and to Kathy that this is probably the best community needs assessment I have ever seen. It's a 200-page document. And for the people who are interested in what really goes on in this community in terms of taking care of the poor, taking care of those who need help, not just for infrastructure, but on a personal basis, it reviews all of the agencies and gives you a sense of pride of all the contributions our community citizens make to help people out. Again, this is the best community needs assessment I've ever read, so I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I had some questions, and I'd had some questions earlier that you and Kathy Selman answered, and I really appreciate the quick responses, but I wanted to make those responses that you would bring those to the public, because it was it's my understanding that we do have currently and have future request regarding the economic development, and this was most recently in the downtown area where the fire code requires sprinklers be in the businesses to utilize for growth, our new businesses and upper levels of our buildings, and that the funds can be used to increase city municipal water line capacity to power sprinklers. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that was that project has been completed. Correct, David? Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's Rolando's. I don't think that's any secret. Rolando's had an opportunity to expand to the second floor and move Taylor Kemke Architects to the third floor. And they had private investments and other funding to do the project work inside. But upon installing the sprinklers or having the estimate for the sprinklers, realized that the water capacity lines owned by the city would not power the sprinklers that they needed. So discretionary funding that was set aside in fiscal year 2013 was used to increase the water lines. In looking at the economic development piece for our future 2014 and beyond funding, during the application process, we did have a business request the exact same service for a business that's being rehabilitated on Quapaw in a historic structure, actually. However, that business is going to be prepared to open in April of next year. The reason that application wasn't approved for recommendation to the city board, we will not receive our fiscal year 2014 funding until September of next year. So while this business has a need, we won't have the funding to upgrade those water. Actually, it's a water and sewer line that needs to be upgraded to meet code requirements. But there was an economic development application received, which, you know, as Mark alluded, is the reason why the Community Development Advisory Committee recommended a discretionary fund be available as businesses need the funds.
And also, I had a question on the sustainable living environments that was answered regarding it does include demolition of condemned, abandoned structures.
Correct.
And that it does include curb and gutter.
Yes.
And those were some of our top items in our surveys.
Yes.
And I know I worked in different neighborhood surveys, and that you did a lot of work within neighborhoods in my district, and we worked particularly Forest Heights because they are a qualifying neighborhood, has a lot of interest in this area. But also I got feedback there about economic development, because we do have one that was structure that was on the list to be condemned, and there is a family that is working that property. And when we did our review with the planning department of these areas, they were working on it at that time. So they're working in an area that they can have, they're trying to make a business out of it. And so I did receive feedback for both over in District 5 area for funding. So it appears that the way that the plan is put together, it has the flexibility to meet the needs of the applications and requests at the time they come before the board for approval. And since joining the board, I had the experience where we had requests and we had board consensus to approve some projects, but then it came to light that, well, it didn't really fit in the approved plan at that time because it was pretty rigid. And before that could go up to HUD, that plan had to be updated, and it did not meet the deadline, and we had to do additional work in order to meet those needs. So I appreciate the flexibility that is offered in the plan to meet both.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, I still would like to see it go. We had a meeting on I'm going to invite you to our next Pleasant Street meeting.
Please
so
do.
You can get in on what's happening in District 2. Karen needs to show up there too so she can hear some of the things that you wouldn't believe if you're not there, you wouldn't believe what goes on. In other words, I've been with this program since it started, and I know how we messed up one time. We really did mess up. But now we realize what can be done. I'm wanting to see some spot housing done in District 2 because there are a lot of needy families and young working families that could profit from that. So instead of going to economic development right now, let's kind of go on the community develop. Think about it, if nothing else. And Mr. Rhodes, you think about it, and I'm going to invite you to our next meeting so you'll know what's going on in District 2. Thank you, Mayor.
Well,
Director
just
Davidson.
a brief comment. I do appreciate all the hard work. I was involved in part of it, not to the point that I have to recuse myself because I backed away. But let me just say this: with a lot of my past was writing grants and working for Habitat. And for a lot of entities, whether they're economic or other for housing, there are other ways to go to get funds. For us to repair our curbs and sidewalks and get those motorized wheelchairs off of Park Avenue, right now CDBG is the only place that the Park Avenue community has to go for funds like that. And that was the concern from that part. However, we also are working very hard to support all our neighborhood businesses, and we want to see them go. And I just had somebody last week said, do you know anything about any grants for businesses? I didn't even think about this because we have one in our community that might be saved. It's tenuous right now. And I appreciate that, but I'm just saying the point is, some of the community associations where it's all done voluntarily, they don't have any other source for funds. This is it. So, whereas businesses might have other opportunities to seek funding. That's all. And we appreciate the economic part of it, but right now the need is so great for some other things.
Thank you again, Michelle. And just for clarifying, is it possible that we wouldn't get anything under the circumstances, so it could all go away and we might not get a grant at all?
I had the pleasure of a very long conversation with a gentleman named Cordell Cooper, who was President Clinton's housing secretary while I was in Tulsa last week. And the answer is no one knows.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
You don't know.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate that.
Never know.
Okay. Hearing no more discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It's adopted. Okay, the next item of business is to consider resolution number R13-224. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13-224, a resolution approving the intent for transfer of certain assets, convention center properties from the City of Hot Springs to the Hot Springs Advertising and Promotion Commission. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion to second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and discussion. Ms. Doretha.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Directors. I'm Doretha Yates, Finance Director and Treasurer for the city. The item before you tonight for consideration is to approve the transfer of assets to the Advertising and Promotion Commission. Currently, the city has about $45 million worth of assets on its financial records, and that is the net book value of the assets that are actually part of the convention center, Summit Arena, the different properties around there. These have been residing on our books. We've been depreciating them in our financial statements, recording expense for the depreciation, whereas the Advertising and Promotion Commission has been making revenue associated with those assets. So there's a mismatch in the accounting in that one organization has expense and the other organization has revenue. In 2007, the state legislature passed legislation that gives A&P the ability to own the assets. Prior to that, they did not have the ability to actually own these assets. So what we'd like you to do is to approve the transfer of these assets. When we do our annual financial records, we also include in a consolidating statement the A&P's assets. So they would actually be rolled up into all the assets in our comprehensive annual financial report, but they would not be included in the expense on our government-wide statement.
Okay. Do you have any? We don't have anybody signed up for that. Do you have any questions?
I speak in favor of this, and I talked to Vicki, the controller over at the A&P, because in review of the financial statements, to have all of that in one place that's applicable to their expense, and it's going to be win-win for the city and the A&P to have everything current and what you need to see, and I have full confidence in Doretha and Vicki to handle that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much, Doretha. Okay. Hearing no more discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider resolution number R13-225. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R13-225, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into the Lake DeGray Joint Use Agreement between the City of Hot Springs, Central Arkansas Water, and Ouachita River Water District for obligations associated with allocation, sale, and purchase of water storage rights, a joint intake site, and pipeline easements. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So move.
And a second. Okay, and discussion. Mr. Burrow.
Yeah, thank you, Bill Burrow, your deputy city manager. This is really something that a lot of people have put a lot of work into to get to this point. This is an agreement that would provide a long-term water source from Lake DeGray to the city of Hot Springs. We've got members in the audience that worked with our Water Facilities Advisory Board, General Tom Arwood and Mr. Larry Stevens. We appreciate all the work that they've done with us. We also have Stuart Nolan with Christ Engineers that can answer any questions that I may not be able to answer, as well as Mr. Watkins, our city manager. This particular agreement would basically authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with Ouachita Water District, Ouachita River Water District, as well as CAW for the storage rights of 20 million gallons a day out of Lake DeGray. We would still have to go to the court at some point to actually purchase the storage as well as the water withdrawal. However, this would be the first step. CAW, as most of you know, have the water storage rights of 120 million gallons a day. Hot Springs has been seeking to obtain 20 million gallons a day of those water rights. In this agreement, I'll just hit a few of the highlights and then turn that over to Mr. Watkins if he has any further comments. The price for these storage rights is just a little over $1 million at $1,078,723. It also includes a joint intake site agreement, and basically what that would be is two independent intake sites on Lake DeGray. However, we would secure the easements or the footprint for both of those intake sites. Our need is now, CAW may not have the need for 15, 20, 25 years. However, part of this agreement is to secure that site so when that time takes place, they don't have to go through some of the hurdles that we may have to go through as we try to site that intake site. I will say that through working through this, we have identified an area on Lake DeGray that would be a good intake site, as well as on Lake Ouachita, and we've gone through different information or additional information in the past on those two sites. So we've got an area that we think we've identified that would be suitable from the Corps standpoint, from the Department of Health standpoint, and certainly from the City of Hot Springs standpoint. In addition to that joint intake site, there is some language in the agreement for a joint easement. It would be an 80-foot easement from Lake DeGray to an area approximately Bismarck, Highway 184, somewhere in there that's mutually agreed upon by the City of Hot Springs and CAW. From that point, the city would only need about a 30-foot easement.
and that is part of the language that's in the agreement. So the agreement basically is for the storage rights, the joint intake site, and then the joint easement for the pipeline up to about 184. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions on that, or Mr. Nolan, if he has some things to add, be glad to bring him up if he had questions, or Mr. Watkins.
I'd like to just once again thank the community leaders who have been involved in looking at not only Lake DeGray but other water possibilities in this region. I think it's important to note that if you go back about 70 or 80 years ago, our forefathers, our ancestors, our ties actually went out and built the Lakeside Water Plant and began building the Upper Lake Hamilton or Ouachita Water Treatment Plant. Those facilities have served this region well. We're at a juncture now where this community has to take a similar look 80 years, 100 years out. The CAW agreement, which as Bill mentioned, really signifies the culmination of a lot of people doing a lot of discussions and a lot of meetings to validate the reason for securing as many water rights as you can possibly get, has come to you for approval. The city is looking at other options besides Lake DeGray. I think Lake Ouachita will continue pursuing water rights in that particular area. We're still discussing with Entergy the possibility of demanding additional water from our current intake up on Upper Lake Hamilton. But I think the point that the board has the prerogative to debate is that we're not making any more water. You can make electricity a million different ways. Water. You can't make more water. We have a preview of what happens when an area runs out of water or has to make really tough choices or literally buys into a period of stagnation in many, many states, particularly in the western states. So that's a preview of what happens when you have not secured water rights. I think this is an excellent opportunity for this community to take that stance, to think about our children and our children's children so they don't have to worry about the future water wars, which I predict will be quite contentious. With that, I'd like to once again recognize the people who've really gone beyond the call of duty, so to speak, on behalf of this community, and that would include Major General Tom Arwood, Larry Stevens with Mid-South Consulting Engineers, Bobby Geiger, who could not be here tonight with Oaklawn, and Libby Vines with Bancorp South, Jim Fram with the Chamber of Commerce, the Metro Partnership, various civic clubs, our own state legislative delegation, whose message to me was get as much water as you can because they see what's out there on the horizon. I think this particular recommendation comes to you with a lot of eyes that have viewed this, a lot of hands that have touched this, and with that, I'd recommend that you act on this agreement.
Any questions?
We have people signed up, so we may have some questions in a few minutes.
Good.
Mr. Fram?
Thank you. I'll be brief. My name is Jim Fram. I live at 132 Hamilton Place. I'm honored to serve as president and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Hot Springs Metro Partnership. Just last week, I got to spend about 3 days with about 1,200 of my peers in economic development, business recruiting from across the country. And it's no surprise to any of us that the topic of conversation was water, because many communities across the country have not had the foresight to plan, as our city manager just stated, decades out into the future as to what our water needs may be. And some of them are in extreme conditions right now because they didn't have that foresight. Somebody was quoted over the weekend as water may become the next oil, and I would totally agree with that as you see situations develop across the country. I would just like to compliment our city staff, the engineers, the community leaders that David mentioned that work on this for having the foresight. We are very fortunate to be in a part of the country where we can drive in any direction and see a lot of water. But the way that water is sold, the way that water is allocated, the way that water is stored is very, very complicated process. And I compliment you for taking this long look into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bob Driggers.
Yes, I'm Bob Driggers, 3 Stonegate. I had a visitor about a week ago when DeGray was on the headlines of the local newspaper. He said, "Why are you going to DeGray when you're sitting here?" We were literally looking at Lake Hamilton. You're on a lake. And you know, he has a good point. We were talking, Hot Springs borders 2 lakes. We have water treatment facilities right below the dam of another lake, Lake Washington. Yet we go 23 miles south to a lake that is 178 foot lower pool elevation than Washita. And, you know, what has happened to logic? We ask the why. Matter of fact, why? Is it possible the power company is involved? Well, with the 2 lakes we mentioned, yes, I would say so. But what hasn't been told to the public is the fact that although the city wasted $2.8 million designing a plant we knew could not be approved and would not be approved, Jacobs, the engineer at the time, never ever told us the operating costs. Now, we're even worse off. We don't have a firm figure on the operating cost to pay for bringing, just to overcome the head, 160 million pounds per day, raise it 100 foot. Convert that to horsepower and kilowatt hours. We're talking expensive water. Now, the city has done a pretty good job of finding some people that they can come in, some experts, and tell us that there are cities higher than Hot Springs for water. You know, if it wasn't for poor Rogers, and by the way, they have a growth problem, as do a lot of the other cities that are a little higher than us. But think about the county residents. We pay 150% of what the city residents do already. You lump this operating cost in, and it's going to get totally out of control. You're about to sign a very onerous contract for clauses for intakes and right-of-way and so forth. You don't have a clue what that right-of-way is going to cost you, do you? So somebody has convinced you that the growth corridor is to the south. Got news for you. Anybody that lives in Hot Springs and has been here a while knows the growth corridor is west. And there is a lake paralleling that growth corridor. It's called Lake Washita. So please don't waste another $2 million like the city already did. Find your lost water. I know it was 43%. I think it's now down in the 30s. Improve the existing plants. Implement a conservation plan. We were told 7 years ago, this is an emergency. It wasn't an emergency then. It's not now.
Thank you. Kurt Schatzel.
Good evening.
Mayor and directors, I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Kurt Schatzel. I live at 289 Sunshine Village Square in the Sunshine community. And I appreciate the opportunity to ask for your support of this resolution. I think Mr. Watkins and Mr. Burrows confronted a very real problem when they took their positions. I think they've tackled it head on. They've considered all possible solutions. They've pursued viable solutions, and they've kept the necessary regulatory authorities apprised and garnered their support over the last several months. I think over the last 6 months to a year, we painfully learned that without water, that economic development can be slowed and halted. Speaking as a director of the Chamber of Commerce, we're all about economic development, and we understand the vital importance of water as a resource for continued growth. I commend Mr. Watkins, Mr. Burrows, the legal counsel, Quorum Court for what they've done so far, and I just ask that you would continue support of this endeavor and this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. George Pritchett.
George Pritchett, 210 Carl Drive. I commend what you all have accomplished in the water area, and I think you do need to sign up and tie this water up. But we must continue to pursue other sources, because when you do the math, much as Bob Driggers just told you, it's going to be astronomically costly. The rates we're going to talk about here in a few minutes on wastewater are tremendous increases to the citizens, far exceeding anything projected on cost of living. I don't know how people are going to be able to afford the water rates if we continue to do this and we have to pay the rate from energy to pump it up here. Additionally, economic development is something we're all concerned about, but if our water rates get excessive compared to other areas, we're going to have a very difficult time attracting new businesses. We have a very difficult time now attracting new businesses. We're losing builders because of our water problems out in the county. We're going backwards. We're not going forward. Our population is very similar to what it was 30 years ago. I don't see economic development occurring for a good while. Water's a part of it, but we don't have anything that we're attracting. We are a destination city, a tourist destination, and folks, I'll be in the grave 30 years, you'll still be a tourist destination.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Now, directors, do you have questions? Yes, ma'am.
For clarification, and it was my understanding in looking at the work that's been done and continues to be done to secure water supply, and that the DeGray Lake was built as a water supply lake, was its purpose, and that we've had barriers in trying to obtain water supply allocations from Lake Ouachita because it was built as a flood control, and that, currently the federal government shut down, so they're not spending any money on this study, but a 5-year study was to be required before any review or recommendation and approval could be obtained, which would have to be obtained from Congress to even consider any allocations for us from Lake Ouachita. Is that correct?
Well, Lake Ouachita was built for it was basically hydropower, flood control, and recreation. Lake DeGray was those same three with the addition of water supply. We are continuing to pursue a water supply from Lake Ouachita. However, there are some other factors that play into that. The Colonel in Vicksburg has the discretion to allocate 50,000 acre feet, which is 30 million gallons a day of water supply from Lake Ouachita. That comes with several studies, one of which is underway, the City of Hot Springs. with their partners are funding that study. It is moving. It is moving rather well up until the shutdown. We think we've got a little bit of delay there. However, that study is moving through that process. We still think we're 18 months to 2 years from knowing what those study results are. So there still is an unknown there on whether that study is going to come back favorable for water supply or not. This does not say that DeGray is where we're going. It provides an option to go to Lake DeGray. Now, we will need to come back to this board at some point to see, as we move through this process, if Lake DeGray is where we need to go first. And if so, staff will start moving in that direction. This is not something that we've done haphazardly. We have looked at both of these locations. We've looked at Lake Hamilton. We do have some issues even in our current intake site regarding the Tainer Gate. And I could stand and debate the 3 locations, but that's not what I'm here for tonight. Tonight is to secure this location to provide us with that option and come back to this board and talk about the options that we have and get a consensus of where we need to go. I can assure you that we are looking at all costs involved, from the pumping costs from Lake DeGray to the additional. When you look at a map, Lake DeGray is actually closer than Lake Ouachita from a pipeline standpoint. Now, that could be changed a little bit depending on where you site your actual water plant. However, I say that to say that we are taking all of these factors in consideration, and we'll be presenting that to you as we move forward to decide which location we go. We will never have this opportunity again. This water will not be available 5 years from now. This is one of the options that we've been working on for some time, and we ask tonight that you approve us to solidify this agreement to give us this option.
So the point is that in all this work in approving this, to give the city and all of the customers the most flexibility in getting additional water supply for our citizens.
Well, I can say that our goal is to not only solve the water supply today, but to solve those issues for our grandkids. If we are successful in securing this water supply at Lake DeGray, as well as our water supply in Lake Ouachita, if we choose to go to Lake DeGray, we are not going to stop and rest one moment in trying to get that secure water from Lake Ouachita. We want them both. We need them both. At some point in time, someone's going to look back and go, 60 years ago, they were pretty smart. They sewed up this water for us today. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have that foresight and secure both of these sites as well as additional water out of Lake Hamilton. And we'll be able to do that once we secure water from another site. So we've got a lot of things coming together at once. We've got a lot of options. Options are good. If we're able to secure them both, again, we don't just solve it for us. We solve it for those that are coming years from now after us. So I don't know if I answered that completely.
We're trying to do the most that we can for Hot Springs and our area.
Certainly.
And to offer the maximum available.
Certainly.
And then be able to make the best decisions. And it may pave the way to enable additional production at the water production plant at Lake Hamilton at a future date. But in all of our decisions, we need to be good stewards in all our water management issues, and that's what you're trying to bring before us.
Yes, and I did not mention one of the items in the contract. I mean, CAW has, one of the amendments that they made at their meeting was providing them the right of first refusal should we ever sell even 1 million gallon a day, 1 MGD. They want that right to buy it back. I mean, it is the new oil, and I can appreciate the comments that we heard tonight, and I can tell you those are some of the same concerns that we have, and those are ones that we will be looking at and addressing as we move forward. with this issue.
Okay, I noticed that Mr. Stuart Nolan's here. I thought, Mr. Nolan, would you like to speak to this at all? Do you have anything you'd like to say that might shed some light on our problems? We appreciate you being here. He's with Chris Engineering.
Mayor, I really don't have anything to add. I think Bill hit on the points. I can't answer questions, some of the detailed things that maybe Karen may have or others, but I think he's covered the most important issues here. I see it as an opportunity that, most important thing he said, it's not going to be here if you turn it down. It's going to go somewhere else, or somebody's going to change their mind. So I think it's an opportunity-driven deal, and I encourage you to approve it and endorse it.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other comment? Okay. Hearing no more discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01368. First, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
And a second. Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Council, would you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 01368, an ordinance authorizing an agreement for detention services by and between the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas, and Garland County, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And who has that discussion for us?
Madam Mayor, members of the board, in October of 2011, Garland County residents voted in a 3/8 cent sales tax for the operation and maintenance of a detention facility and for the cost of housing prisoners. There has been a lot of discussion about exactly how that would be done after the election. The state law that authorized this tax that the citizens approved provides for a division of the income, the revenue that's collected based on the per capita representation between the city and the county. That tax began being collected by our merchants and vendors last April of this year, and so that money has been collected and segregated into a dedicated account for that purpose. We've been working over the last several months to work out an agreement with the county for their services and providing housing for city prisoners. That has taken a lot of negotiation. I want to thank the county judge, Ralph Ohm, and Sheriff Sanders also for working with us in that regard. The Quorum Court approved this agreement last night at its meeting by unanimous vote. I'd like to answer any questions that you might have about the agreement itself, but essentially the terms are we will provide them with the funds that we collect on this sales tax. They will accept our prisoners.
Got it. Good job.
No cap. There is an issue with respect to medical expenses. If one particular city prisoner at a single stay exceeds $2,000 in medical expenses, the city will be responsible for that. We are maintaining May and June's collections on the sales tax as a fund that can only be used for detention services, which might include, among other things, medical expenses for our prisoners.
They better not get sick on us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your leadership and this agreement, and appreciate our county officials and working with you as well. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay. Yes, we appreciate that. A lot of work. And any other discussion? Any other questions? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Mayor, there is an emergency clause associated with this ordinance that I will now read separately, and if you would, call for the vote separately on the emergency clause. Section 3, emergency clause, the proper care of housing of prisoners arrested by the Hot Springs Police Department being of significant concern to the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas. The Board of Directors finds that emergency exists, and this ordinance shall therefore take effect immediately upon its passage and approval. If you would, entertain a motion and a second to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. Okay. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01369. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Do you have a motion?
Mayor, I so move.
Okay, in a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, council, would you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 01369, in order to waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for the purchase of a camera video system for the downtown parking deck and certain street intersections, awarding a contract to Templi Inc., and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
Second.
Okay, in a second. And Mr. You're not Mr. Burrows. Mr. McFate.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Directors. Denny McFate, Public Works Director. Staff's recommendation is waive competitive bidding for the purchase of 11 camera video system for the downtown area from Temple Incorporated. Hot Springs Police Department would like to replace the current non-functional camera system at 6 locations at signalized intersections downtown and 4 cameras inside the parking deck, including one overlooking the parking deck fountain. There will be 2 cameras on the ground floor of the parking deck and 2 cameras on the top floor of the parking deck where we have most of our vandalism problems. Cameras will be located at the following street intersections: Spring Street and Malvern Avenue, Spring Street and Central Avenue, Ridge Street and Central Avenue, Reserve Street and Central Avenue, and Mountain Street and Central and Fountain and Central. The current cameras are obsolete and currently do not work. Temple Incorporated is a supplier of our software for our traffic signal coordination system, service software Tactics. This is the software and monitoring and coordination system that is displayed on the large video screen located at the traffic services office if you've ever been out there and toured it. Temple has the ability to provide the cameras, the mounting hardware, and software that integrates the camera system to where they can be monitored real time through our Tactics server and monitored on the same screen as our traffic signals are. The system will include a DVR recorder and include 5 licenses that will allow internet viewing from satellite locations. But Hot Springs Police Department will be the primary monitoring station for these 11 cameras. This will give us an alarm anytime there's an issue with any of the cameras, and an alarm if any one of the cameras goes offline. We'll be able to see on screen with the rest of our traffic signal system. So we don't have to worry about something going on and something that was recorded and find out later when we go back try to view it that the camera was not working at the time. So we'll know at a glance of the screen whether or not it's working or offline. The traffic division will perform the field installation of the system with technical support from being furnished by Temple Inc. The primary usage of the system will be for monitoring vandalism and other safety events depending on the particular circumstances, which could help certain crime and accident investigations in that area. And one of the things I like about it is it will allow us to be able to monitor large community events that we have, like in Hill Whitley Plaza with a camera at Bridge and Spring. They can monitor the Hill Whitley Plaza area. And when we have the downtown entertainment section, which is Malvern closed off from Bridge to Spring, like the Hog Rally, the camera will be able to monitor those kind of things for safety as well. I would like to note, however, that Arkansas law does not allow ticketing or traffic violations that is recorded by video devices. So anybody that's worried about getting a ticket for speeding or whatever else for a traffic violation, that's not allowed by state law. This was budgeted in the 2013 Traffic Division budget. The quote we've got from Temple has came in under budget at $46,662, which is almost a $3,000 under budget. Any questions?
Have any questions? No, and no one signed up. So, no discussion. Would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Thank you, Denny.
Thank you, ma'am.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. Okay, the next item of business is to consider ordinance number O1370. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any opposed? Council, would you please read by title?
Ordinance O1370, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for Census Logic software, awarding a contract to HD Supply Waterworks Limited and for other purposes. That concludes the reading, Mayor. If you entertain a motion, a second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And who has that for us?
Leap over there.
Lance.
I'll handle this one. Thank you. As Brian stated, this is an ordinance to waive competitive bidding and award a contract to HD Supply, who is the sole source provider for the Census Logic software. The city back in 2009 implemented the advanced meter infrastructure system, the auto meters, basically. And what this system is, it's an upgrade of our existing FlexNet system. So this is a true upgrade. And what the AMI system is, it's essentially, if you think about it, it's a backbone. It's the trunk of a tree. We keep adding pieces to it, and this is definitely one of the pieces. And it's kind of, because it's apropos that we talk about it on the night of water. We talk about conservation, leak detection, and things like that. That's what this system is meant for. This particular item will benefit the staff initially, because there is a dashboard view that the staff will be using. And what it does, it allows for quick reports that are data driven. This is a data analytics software. So what that means, it takes the immense amount of data that comes from our meter reading system, and it makes that into useful information. Instead of having to pull the data out of the system, it pushes data to you. So you have reports and things like that that are relevant to your position. So what the pricing will include are the upgrade, the software itself. There's a 5-year maintenance licensing fee within that. There's also a 3-day on-site training for the staff, which is a very important aspect to it, to make sure that the staff is also well trained in this key software. There's also another item that, that, as I said, it's a backbone, so you can add to it. There's a Customer Connect portal. So essentially what the staff is viewing, there are certain parameters that customers will be able to set. If my water bill reaches a certain amount, I want a text message. If I use this much consumption, I like to have notification of that as well. So that's something that we like to bring to you later. But obviously what we need to do is get this set up in-house so that we can provide the enhanced customer service, because not only does it do leak detection on the consumer side, customer side, you can do conservation aspects. You can do theft detection, because you can actually tie the consumption to the usage. You can parameter off certain areas within the city, mapping subdivisions, etc., and virtually meter those areas. So this is a big upgrade for the city. And we also have Dwayne Self and Robbie Temple with HD Supply out of North Little Rock, and James Nixon with Municipal Customer Operations on hand. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to entertain them.
Do you have any questions? Anybody have questions about the upgrade?
9 o'clock.
Okay, well, thank you for coming all the way from Little Rock. I hope you've enjoyed our show.
Why, man.
Thank you. Hearing no more discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
McCabe?
Aye.
Garcia?
Aye.
Foley?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye. It is adopted. Again, thank you. Okay, the next item of business is to consider ordinance number O1371. First of all, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only for its first reading only. This is for it.
Second.
In a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Council, would you please read by title only?
Ordinance O 1371, an ordinance fixing rates for services rendered by the wastewater system of the City of Hot Springs, repealing Ordinance 5736, and prescribing other matters related thereto. Mayor, this was for first reading only. There is no motion or second to adopt, so there is no discussion. If you would move now to the next item on your agenda.
Okay. And we will read that 2 more
Yes, ma'am.
board meetings, right?
Yes, there will be a public hearing on November the 5th, at which time the board may or may not suspend the reading of the next 2, but the public hearing will be November the 5th. State law requires us to introduce it the meeting before the public hearing.
Okay. And the next item of business is going into executive session. It's a preliminary evaluation of the city attorney and city manager, and it will be conducted in a private session, executive session. And I do need we will come back right after this and report.
Before you do that, I would like to say something, and I'd like for Minnie to come up here. I don't know how many people read Mature, Arkansas, but I was a visitor at the Langston reunion, and all these people were crowded around, you know, some of these people my age. That's the age group I'd be around. And I asked them what was going on in that room. And they explained to me that Minnie Lennox had contacted or met some guy that was a news reporter. And he did not know that they had had such a hard time going to school. And he was going to write an article. And I was in the hospital, and some lady brought me the article, Minnie, Mature, Arkansas. And I want you to tell the people a little bit about it, just a little, because it's 9 o'clock.
Thank you. I'm Minnie Lennox, Human Resources Director for the City of Hot Springs. And I was contacted by Cal Lawson. He contacted me, who writes for Mature, Arkansas. And he wanted to know about the plight of the integration in 1968-69 of Hot Springs High School, when Langston was closed as a high school and it became a junior high school. In our senior year, we were moved from Langston to Hot Springs High School. And he wanted to hear about, you know, how it was, what we went through, how we were able to overcome it, and what differences it has made in our lives today. And he did a beautiful article on it. It was a 4-page spread in Mature, Arkansas. And because of that, he has now sent it to Maryland, and it's going to be a part of their Black History. The state of Maryland is going to be a part of their Black History Month in February of 2014. Great. So I'll be corresponding with them regarding that. And there was a roundtable discussion tonight at Regard about the article and all, and there were other people that were present who had gone through it and who had experienced, and that was the topic of discussion. So I was kind of happy to tell the story that probably has never been told before.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yep, I read that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now back to business. Okay, thank you, Minnie. Immediately following the executive session, we will re-enter, and then we will have, after the adjournment, the public comment section. So we will. I need a motion now to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and we'll now recess into executive session, and afterwards we will announce whether we have a vote or if any action is taken. 2? Is it 2, 3? Okay. We will now reconvene the board meeting, and we have done no action taken, and we will discuss. We were just in preliminary session for the review of our city manager and our attorney, which will happen in December, and we were getting our ducks in a row, so we can do that. Okay? The next item of business is announcements of directors. If you have any comments that you need to make. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to pass along some thank yous and citizens' praises to Max Cecilia and the crews that did the work on Delaware and Fairmont Street. It's really appreciated, and they've worked on some real issues over there, making improvements, and particularly that block.
Okay. Any other?
May I ask just a question? Do we ever have a time where we have a recognition time and a thank you time for all the people who sit on our commissions and committees, the citizens who put all that time into stuff like that? We do have a time that we set aside for that?
May I answer that?
Well, I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about a party or just
like a reception?
We used to have a banquet once a year for each commission
Okay.
and each advisory board. We would have it at the convention center.
Okay.
And when Lance came in, I think the money changed or something. And you know, they appreciated that. I'll bring you a picture.
That'll be good. We can do something. Okay, I'm not sure. Can you work on that maybe to...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Elaine's I know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Got cut out
Okay.
budget.
Yeah, have to be in the budget.
I understand.
Or we could all bring a dozen cookies and some punch, and it'll happen.
That's
Okay.
been going for
Any
that.
other announcements? Okay, immediately following tonight's business meeting, there will be a public commentary here in the board chambers, and for those of you who will be leaving, please do so quietly. Everybody left already. There being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. And now